The mark of the beast is a topic that arouses curiosity and generates many theories, many of which are incorrect. However, this peculiar mark, in one way or another, will influence your life and that of your loved ones. Surprisingly, you may have already accepted this mark without realizing it. In today's video, I will reveal the true nature of this mark. And I have a surprise at the end of this video for you. In today's video, I will address the famous mark of the beast. What is this misunderstood mark? There are many wrong ideas about it. Some believe that the number 666 will be marked on the forehead or hand, while others thought that the US Social Security number was this mark, a theory that has lost strength over time. And what about the Canadian Social Insurance number, whose acronym is SIN, and barcodes and QR codes? These ideas have been replaced by a modern computer chip the size of a grain of rice that can be inserted between the thumb and index finger. Such chips are used to track lost animals and for worker identification. Will everyone be required to accept an implanted chip as a mark of identification? The answer is a clear no. None of these theories represent the true mark. Let's understand more about this mark in the biblical book of Revelation, chapter 13, starting with verse 16. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who is understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. But who or what is the beast? The beast mentioned in these verses has a long history with various manifestations. The last manifestation will occur in Europe, consisting of 10 nations or groups of nations that come together unstably but will form a powerful military and economic force. The beast is also associated with a great false church. In Revelation 17, starting with verse 12, we find, "The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast." The mark of the beast is above all a biblical doctrine. This source informs us that without this mark, you will not be able to buy or sell. So why would anyone refuse to accept this mark if it meant keeping their business and even feeding their family? What distinguishes this form of identification from a driver's license, a passport, a national insurance number, a fingerprint, or an ocular scan? Why not accept it? The Bible, which predicts this mark, gives us a good reason to refuse it. In Revelation 14, starting with verse 9, we read, "And a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast in his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, and in the presence of the Lamb." Why is God so indignant? In Revelation 16, in verses 1 and 2, it is described how God will pour out his wrath and the last 7 plagues at the return of Christ. The problem, as explained in other scriptures, is that God's wrath is directed at the disobedient. In Romans 2, verse 5, we find, "In accordance with your hardness and your impenitent heart, you are treasuring up for yourself wrath in the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God." And in Colossians 3, verses 5 and 6, there are also references to the importance of obeying God to avoid his wrath. God's wrath mentioned in the Bible is directed at the disobedient, as explained in Romans 2, verse 5, "But in accordance with your hardness and your impenitent heart, you are treasuring up for yourself wrath in the day of wrath and revelation of the righteous judgment of God." In Colossians 3, verses 5 and 6, we are warned to abandon sinful practices such as idolatry. Because of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience. But there is a positive side to this. True Christians who reject the mark are seen before the very throne of God, as described in Revelation 15. 2. "And I saw something like a sea of glass mingled with fire, and those who have the victory over the beast, over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, and here he's having the harps of God. After Christ returns, he will grant rewards to his servants who have stood firm, willing to obey God regardless of the consequences. The reward is to reign with Christ, bringing peace to this turbulent planet. And I saw thrones, and they sat on them, and judgment was committed to them. Then I saw the souls of those who had been beheaded for their witness to Jesus and for the word of God, who had not worshipped the beast or his image, and had not received his mark on their foreheads or on their hands. And they lived and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. Whatever this mark is, it should not be underestimated. Everyone is forced to take a stand, one way or another. Without it, buying and selling will be prohibited, but accepting it brings God's wrath. This mark is a symbol of disobedience to God and is associated with the beast and a religious system that dominates the beast. The book of Daniel describes 4 great Gentile empires that arise, starting in Babylon and ending with the return of Christ to establish his kingdom on earth. Daniel 2:33 describes a dream of King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon, where he saw a great image of a man with a head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly and thighs of bronze, legs of iron, and feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Speculations are many, but most biblical scholars agree with what the Bible clearly says and history confirms. In Daniel 2:37-40, it is revealed that Nebuchadnezzar is the head of gold, followed by another kingdom inferior to his, then a third kingdom of bronze that will rule over all the earth, and the fourth kingdom will be as strong as iron. The Chaldean Empire of Nebuchadnezzar was the first, followed by the Medo-Persian Empire, then the Greco-Macedonian Empire, and the Roman Empire being the fourth. Daniel 7 and 8 provide incredibly accurate details about these empires, and Revelation 13, written during the time of Rome, gives details about the future of the Roman Empire. Revelation 17 portrays the empire during the time it is ruled by a great religious system, hence the term Holy Roman Empire. Revelation 17 also shows that this Roman system will have 7 revivals, symbolized by an immoral woman representing a church. This union between church and state will continue until the second coming of Christ, even going so far as to fight against Christ at his return. Revelation 7:10. Will 14 describes the 7th and last revival of this beast. The reference to the beast applies to both a man and his kingdom. When we read Daniel 2:7 and 8, along with Revelation 13 and 17, there is no doubt about its identity. It is the Roman Empire. However, in Revelation 13, there is reference to another beast, described in verses 11 and 12. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. This beast exercised all the authority of the first beast in its presence and caused the earth and its inhabitants to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. This beast appeared to be the Lamb of God, but spoke like a dragon or Satan, the devil, representing a false Christian religious system. The subsequent verses confirm this, describing it as a beast that performs miracles and demands worship, or the death of those who oppose it. 13:15, we read that this beast performs great signs, even making fire come down from heaven to the earth in the sight of men, deceiving those who dwell on the earth by those signs. She orders them to make an image of the first beast, which was wounded by the sword and lived. Her power was given to this image to speak and cause the death of those who did not worship the image of the beast. This image of the beast, this false religious system, is what causes people to receive the famous mark, as shown in Revelation 13:16. The beast causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads. Now that we have identified the beast as the Roman Empire, with a great false church directing it, it is time to identify its mark. This mark is not a simple sign of identity. It is not the social security system, nor a barcode, QR code, or computer chip. Above all, it is the mark of the beast, which began with Rome and ends at the return of Jesus Christ at the end of time. 10 nations or kings will give their power to the beast, and an immoral church rides this beast. This beast has a mark or identifying sign, which will be imposed on the world. Without the mark, one cannot buy or sell, and God's wrath will be poured out on those who accept it. True Christians who refuse the mark, their following Christ, will be greatly rewarded. It is the violation of God's commandments that brings God's wrath, as we saw in Colossians 3:5-6. This last point is key. Those who accept the mark violate God's commandments in some way. To understand the mark of the beast, we must first understand that God also has a sign that identifies his people, just as the mark of the beast identifies those who are his. Do not believe me just because I say so, but because you read it in your own Bible. Speak also to the children of Israel, saying, "Surely my Sabbaths you shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord who sanctifies you." Yes, the seventh-day Sabbath is a sign between God and his people. Some would argue that this applies only to Jews, forgetting key verses in the New Testament, like Jesus' statement to the Gentile woman at the well, found in John 4:22. So God has a unique standard, a day of worship for Jews and Gentiles. Think about it. Why do most Christians meet on Sunday instead of the only day sanctified by the Bible? In Mark 2:7-28, Jesus declares that he is the Lord of the Sabbath. 3 times we are informed that Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath. How many times do we read that he is the Lord of the first day of the week? None. What does it mean for the mark to be placed on the forehead or hand? The Bible answers this question in relation to God's commandments, including the Sabbath commandment. In Deuteronomy, sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And referring to one of God's annual Sabbaths, in Exodus 13, we read that it shall be as a sign on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes. Yes, God's law, especially his Sabbaths, should be written on our foreheads, symbolically representing thought and decision-making, and on our hands, symbolizing our actions. So who changed the day? The answer is found in history. Many sources record that it was Emperor Constantine who imposed Sunday as a day of rest and worship. Rome commanded punishment for anyone who observed the biblical seventh-day Sabbath. This sign continued until our days, but not always so strongly enforced. Constantine was the emperor of Rome, and the religious system that modeled itself after Rome followed suit. The mark of the secular beast and the spiritual image of the beast that substitutes its day for God's day is nothing less than a counterfeit of God's sign, identifying his people. Millions of professing Christians are accepting this mark without realizing it, even as I speak. But when the final restoration of the beast soon reemerges in cooperation with this same religious system, it will no longer be voluntary. It may be imposed by a passport chip or other means.
Receive a strong hug, and always remember, you are under the loving care of God. The mark of the secular beast and the spiritual image of the beast that substitutes its day for God's day is nothing less than a counterfeit of God's sign identifying his people. Millions of professing Christians are accepting this mark without realizing it, even as I speak. But when the final restoration of the beast soon re-emerges in cooperation with this same religious system, it will no longer be voluntary. It may be imposed by a passport chip or other means. Even now, there is a push to bring into existence central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. These government-controlled digital currencies would give power to governments around the world to control the behavior of their citizens. Will this be the means of imposition? Time will tell, but the means of imposition are not as important to us as what the actual mark is. Thank you for watching. If you found this video helpful and want to learn more, be sure to get your free copy of Which Day is the Christian Sabbath. All you need to do is click on the link in the description. It's that easy. And remember to like and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on different biblical topics. We, at Tomorrow's World, want to help you understand this world through the pages of the Bible. We have come to the end of this video, and it is my sincere wish that the words shared here have served to enrich and strengthen your faith. The stories and teachings we explored together are more than mere narratives. They are reflections of divine grace and power at work in our world. Now, I make an appeal to you. Share this content. Spread these messages of faith, hope, and inspiration with as many people as possible. Each share has the potential to touch hearts and change lives, expanding our community of faith and strengthening our spiritual bond. I look forward to seeing you in the next video, where we will continue our spiritual journey together, exploring more deeply the mysteries and wonders of the divine. May God shower his blessings upon you abundantly, guiding your steps and illuminating your path.